Bengals podcast.
Podcast.
And wow, guys.
Wow.
We
Great
take-
song.
Great song.
Yeah.
Credit
Not
to
bad.
Dr. Hodgie. Yeah, for the idea. We take 1 week off in all this news, all over the place. All this stuff happens.
One
It's
week.
amazing. Yeah.
It's been has it been 1 week for you?
It's
I think it's been months, plural.
months.
Yeah.
It's been at least since January. And we are
feels
now
like it's
in
just
April.
been like a day.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so
This is
long.
the first, I think, podcast of the year.
Yes.
2020.
been so
the year of
long.
our Lord Annos Domini 2025.
Yes. But it's been so long.
Many M's, many
That's
X's, and the
Bridget,
TVs.
the home run Jan Cars,
Yeah.
has forgiven our sins and has come back.
Fresh,
Ron?
fresh
Am I-
from the
am I
Disney
Ellie?
world. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, look at this cool pizza planet. Sure.
There you go.
So
I'm not even a Bengals fan anymore. Just pizza and Disney.
That's good. You've retired from the pain of being a Bengals fan, as we all wish we could. But
No.
it's like they say, STDs are forever, as is the love of the Cincinnati Bengals.
yeah.
Do they say that?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Well, okay, where do we start? First of all, John, congratulations on the signing of T. Higgins, Jamar Chase.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Well,
But-
and on breaking a major story.
yes.
John, I don't know if the fans are aware, but John broke a major story in Bengal land.
He
That
did.
he was the first who had an exclusive on Dadio,
On that guy who he
the
signed,
guy who signed,
who he plays
plays.
on the offensive
Football.
line.
There
he
you go.
blocks.
No, he's got
And
legs,
his name
Sometimes.
arms,
his name starts with a consonant.
See,
got a few
my
vowels in
my
there.
biggest issue with Lucas Patrick is he has two first names. I don't really trust people with a first name for a last name. That is on the scouting report and it is going to dock him a little bit. But
Oh, yeah.
that was really
that's
cool to
fine.
break news and to have people to say to Adam Schefter to credit John Sheeran. This never happened before.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, he
Wow.
did.
No, he didn't actually
No,
do it.
other
But
people
people were
told him
telling.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But he didn't credit you. That would be the next step.
Mm-hmm.
So big he can't mess with you.
Yeah.
You know, HR, I would figure we could put the lawsuit together for John.
We can write it up for sure.
Yeah.
Suing Shefty sounds fun. What a 2025 like flex for
Well,
us.
that might be a conflict of interest because if we're suing Shefty, then we're also suing Disney. I don't know if Bridget wants to get involved with that. Considering
Bridget has given probably $40,000
Yeah.
to Disney in the last 2 weeks.
What do they call the adults who go to Disney? They have a name for you guys.
I think it's just Disney adults.
Disney adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Don't ask what happens in Disney stays in Disney. Don't ask people what
I'm
happens when the
pretty
lights go
sure-
down
I'm
at
pretty
Disney.
sure they don't grow up if you listen to the song. The
I mean, that's
Disney.
totally
I
true.
don't want to grow up. I'm a Disney kid.
So,
So-
I got a question for all of you. And I say this from a place of deep sincerity.
Yeah.
As a Bengals fan, am I supposed to be hopeful right now, happy right now,
Right.
or in my normal and more comfortable state of angst and despair?
Here's
and
the
maybe
thing.
ennui. A little bit of ennui goes a long way when you're a
you-
Bengals fan.
You are supposed to be like, hey, that was a really nice offense. I think we might see that again if they stay healthy. That's what you're supposed to be at right now. John.
Because we just found out recently that they've extended or they've signed or extended the tray, right?
No, that was fake news, John.
Fake news.
was that even fake news? There was no report about that.
There
It
was
was
a
the
tweet.
April Fool's.
There was a tweet.
Yeah,
It was like
April
75
Fool's, yeah.
million, and it was like 30 million a year or something like that. So that was fake. I was April Fooled. I was punked.
You have to see. This is John. This is why I tell him all the time. You have to investigate. You have to corroborate. You can't just take anything from the internet and turn it into a story.
Yeah.
But he is not a journalist like us, John.
Yeah, like
Speaking, by the way, John has gone from being journalist to being a sports, figurehead kind of bobblehead, personality where
Yeah.
he is his videos.
He's famous. He's a Cincinnati
famous.
icon.
Yes.
So, John, Mr. Cincinnati icon bobblehead, what do you say about my question? Hope or despair?
I think it's better to be a bobblehead than a talking head. Bobbleheads are a lot more
That's
fun,
what I
more
was looking
kid friendly.
for. Yeah.
I think The answer is because
Right.
because the whole side or the whole angle of the take is that Joe Burrow is so good that he can just overcome, and that he's proven to be able to do that. Obviously, the Super Bowl gets further and further away into the past. He didn't even win that game, but that seems to be the crutch that the team consistently holds on to and prevents them from going all out and building a team and stacking a team in terms of talent like the way that the prime years of Andy Dalton were, because they knew that they had to support Andy Dalton as much as possible. If there couldn't be any roster holes on those teams when he was the quarterback, they look at Burrow and they say he's so good that he can overcome having bad guard play. He's so good that, if we just make slight adjustments to the defense in terms of stopping the run, and the other pieces will kind of come into place, the pass rush will get better, and then the defense will naturally take a step forward. Instead of just solidifying those holes and not entering the draft with very glaring weaknesses and make it virtually impossible to nail the draft and to make sure that your roster is foolproof after the draft, you can just sit back and say, it doesn't matter, because as long as you have Joe Burrow as quarterback, there's no game that you feel like you can't win. And the worst part about this is that the fans feel it too. Every time that you guys watch a Bengals game, you never think that they have no chance of winning this game because of who the quarterback is. So the team uses that, I think, to just their advantage of just not going completely all in and not doing the most to make sure that he's as supported as possible, because they believe exactly what the fans believe, even if the fans don't want to actually believe it's true.
And the fans don't get paid, and the fans are not professionals, and the fans are not sports analysts. But let's be honest, from what I've come to understand, we don't have a lot of sports analysts on the Cincinnati Bengals staff. No offense, but
the fans we're fanalists. I'm the number one fanalist.
You are
number one fanalist. So I agree with John, and I'm kind of like, but like, and here's why. So if you've taken any management course ever, what does everybody say? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So strategy wise, I don't know that we're any better than we were at the end of the season. Last game, I don't know talent wise if we're any better. But what gives me hope is that, like, we see the NFLPA scores. We know from like a culture standpoint, there's a lot the Bengals organization has to do. But we also saw them pay T and Jamar really strong contracts. It's what the team seems to want. So my hopefulness is that there's actually a culture shift that it's not, we took a break from being cheap. We're actually listening to the team. So I'm feeling cautiously optimistic.
I like that finalysis, right? That's what it would be. It would be a finalysis.
John.
And you would be a femme fanal.
Ooh.
Yes.
I believe that's what it's called.
Yes.
Secure that Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So okay, but okay, go, Dadio, you go.
Well, I just want to say, and John can correct me here, my take, John, they spent the same amount of money they normally would. They didn't really get one of those mid-tier free agents, the 26-year-olds who hey, maybe he's not terrible, and then they give him $10 million a year, right? They give a couple of these guys because they think they're bargain buy value, whatever, and they end up just being borderline starters that we cast off in a couple of years. Instead of spending on those, they're okay, what do we do? These guys are two of the greatest players in Bengals history. Joe Burrow really wants them. We're looking really bad. Let's just give that money to them, right? Let's front load it. Let's get the same amount of cap space, and let's say, hey, we're done. We can't afford any guards this year. Let's wait for the draft. So I feel like, John, it's the exact same money as always.
Yeah.
It's just more top heavy, and it's because their hand was forced. And how do you?
It was clear their hand was forced by what they tweeted out. That kind of weird propaganda,
right.
How dare you say this, that we're cheap?
Right. It's so funny, John. All these Bengals fans taking their victory laps, you said because every Bengals fan said they're not gonna. Everybody was disappointed in them until 2 days before the signing, when James Rapien, whatever, I don't know who was it, said hey, this is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So everybody was what are we doing? We're missing out on free agency again, and they waited and they're okay, we got to do something. So everybody had lost hope in the Bengals, and we still, this happens every time, John.
But
They disappoint
Dadio,
us, then they throw us something little, and we're like, all is good. But nothing is
That's
changed.
called
in terms of that.
breadcrumbing,
Yeah.
by the way. I keep up with the social media. That's called breadcrumbing. You give up a guy a little bit of hope, and then you snatch it away. And then a little bit of hope, and you snatch it away. I don't know why they
I
call
think the
it
problem
that.
with Jamar Chase
because-
eating his food is he's stuck. No offense, Bridget, but he is stuck in Cincinnati itself. And in Cincinnati, you have some Italian restaurants. Maybe you have some sushi restaurants.
Yeah.
You have some stuff like that. You got to go a little bit out of Cincinnati to get
Right.
some different cultures, some more, I would say more exotic cultural food. Just
You're
a little
talking
bit out of
about
Cincinnati.
truck stops.
Not about
A Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's. I know Daddy was a big fan of everything in Buc-ee's.
Yeah.
Gave him a gift certificate for his birthday, and he will be a very happy
But
young
hold
man.
on, I want to hear John's take on that. Like,
Well,
do
maybe
they-
you also want to hear my take.
No, I want to hear
No,
John's take.
John.
Yeah, John.
Sure. They didn't have a choice, really, because not paying T. Higgins would have been just an institutional failure, because he was by far the safest bet that they could have made for that money. In years past, sometimes they've opted to sign, one or two extra players instead of paying one player in particular, but he was the best free agent on the market if he were to hit the market. Trey Hendrickson would have been the best free agent on the market if he didn't sign a 1-year extension 2 years ago. Their money was best spent on their best players. Now, there could have been more that they could have done, and I think that is where the criticism should lie. It was never about the Bengals should be chastised for paying 2 receivers this amount of money, despite the fact that the rest of the roster was terrible, and there's no one else in the roster that deserved that money aside from Trey Hendrickson, which has yet to happen, obviously. But the problem, like you said, Dadio, is that the money that they spent is not the issue, but it's how they spent it with these 2 players is an issue, because they just basically forfeited $11 million in cap space for no reason at all, other than the fact that they just wanted to do it that way. They could have prorated some of those bonuses in those contracts that gave themselves more cap room, and this is what actually would drive me crazy if it is true. There's a theory going around by Andre Parada, who knows more about the salary cap than anyone else who follows the Bengals, and he theorized that the Bengals structure these contracts this way for basically the way that you said it. Like, they now have a specific amount of cap space that is typically around what they end up having when the offseason enters the NFL draft season, and he believes that they did it this way in order to negotiate with Trey Hendrickson by saying, hey, we only have this amount of cap space right now. This is our offer. It's going to eat a little bit more into this cap space, but this is the best that we can do based off these circumstances. And he believes that they purposely set those circumstances as a negotiating tactic to use against Trey as leverage, which would be diabolical even for them. But at this point, I don't really want to put it past them, because there is no other logical reason as to why they structure those contracts that way. And again, forfeiting themselves an opportunity to add more players to better the roster.
May I follow up?
But he said diabolical. I
Follow
love
up.
that word. Okay.
Yeah, I know that's your favorite word. So I noticed, John, you keep using the past perfect. Could have, would have, and should have. Okay. My question is, does that mean everything is over and the Bengals cannot spend anymore and do big stuff anymore? Is everything done?
No, I mean, they have $23 million in space, and I think a
Right.
trade extension, if it were to happen, would eat it like $5 or $6 million, right? And then that's when you get to basically like they are historically done. $10 million will be saved off for the draft and practice squad elevations, and then $8 million will be saved during the season, and then most of that gets rolled over. And then we start the cycle all over again, where it never really ends, and there's never really anything productive that happens with it. It's always just saving for the sake of saving instead of just maximizing the space that you have. But it's not really over until I think Trey signs, and maybe there's like a guard signing after the draft.
And I mean, as someone who just watches games, because that's really all I do in terms of my finalysis, thank you for that, Bridget. I can't help but think that I love T. I do. I would never say anything bad about T. And Jamar is the greatest player perhaps in the NFL. Okay, fine. But it seemed to me that the games that they did really well were not those that the receivers did well in, but rather those games where we happened to actually have a running game. Like, it just seemed to me like every time the Bengals could get the run going, that we would win the game. what happens? How do you
your
fix
air
that?
game is always going to be better when you have a running game. Like
Well,
I know,
but
how
actually,
do they fix
hold
it?
on.
I'm saying.
To
I'm
Hodgie's
saying, how did they
point-
fix
To Hodgie's
it?
point,
Yeah.
when I was preparing these clips for the intro, I was like, it said, victory, right? We want victories or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what clip do I use? And then I was like, oh, Ravens game. Look at that deep shot to Jamar. Look at the,
Yeah.
look at the what do you call it? The Washington Commander game.
Yeah.
And I was like, but we lost that game. We
lost
lost that game.
That's
So
what
a
I'm
lot
saying.
of the biggest plays, no, to your point. And when I say
point.
to your point, that means you don't have to argue with me for that.
I'm agreeing with you, but
Okay.
I'm agreeing in
So-
a very angry way.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So I was like, John,
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the stat. I bet a lot of their biggest games, other than, T. Higgins' biggest game was that Broncos one.
Yeah.
But Jamar Chase, a lot of his biggest games were losses to the Ravens, right? And other teams. Point is, so it's true that a lot of the biggest stats come from that. However, we
nevertheless.
almost beat the Chiefs. We almost beat the Ravens twice. We almost beat, like, all of the games where we almost win, our receivers are making really big plays. And if they didn't, we would have no chance.
So it's our only hope.
against. No, my point is, if we're going to actually win big games, it has to be with those big receivers.
And I just want to comment on Dadio's response real quick. Bridget, since you are HR, I want to point out again, just between us, off the record, he disappears from camera. He comes back sniffing. It's just like what I was telling you. He comes back sniffing every time from the camera. Oh, hey, Dadio.
Yeah.
You're back.
I did. Yeah, I sniffed.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah.
to
Sorry.
finish.
Yeah. I was just
I'll
reacting
be
to
right
your
back.
analysis. Yeah.
I was wondering what those rolled up fake dollar
is
bills were.
Off it. And there's so much energy.
I thought it was just the lighting, but his nose does
If
look
I,
a little white.
if I sniff too much on camera, we can't monetize. That's why.
Yeah. Yeah. So you were
Point
saying.
is,
Yeah.
yeah. So I do think that we definitely need. I think Jamar Chase, obviously, there's no discussion. This team is a Super Bowl contender with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow with just enough time to actually throw the ball like they had last year. The offense was, John, I mean, it was about as good as an offense gets, even with that terrible running game. With I don't know. Chase Brown is great, but very inconsistent run blocking. It was still a great offense. The offense was good enough, and everybody was like, hey, if the Bengals make the playoffs, watch out. And that's with a historically terrible defense. With average defense, yeah.
But Dadio, they have not changed a lot in terms of players, but John, they have changed a lot in terms of coaching staff. You are the offensive line guy. You're the expert worldwide. It is well known. This new offensive line head coach, and nobody knows his name.
Nobody knows his name yet. See, that's the thing.
That's the thing.
This is the problem when you hire literal no-name people
Well,
whose names are not made public.
No, I mean, except if he goes to like Cheers, where everybody knows your name.
John.
Is he good?
Another problem, Scott Peters. I mean, technically, Peters is not a first name.
Oh,
There's an
crap.
S at the end of it, but still, two first names.
Pretty close.
Not great. But
John, hold on, John.
Scott
The whole first name. If you have if your last name is another first name, that means they know who your father was. That's good. That means he's a legitimate person.
I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
usually-
validity in that, but I don't personally trust it. Anyway, Scott Peters is a really good coach of technique for offensive linemen. So much to the point that he started his own training academy for offensive linemen in terms of improving their own pass protection technique. A lot of hand usage, a lot of leverage teachings. A lot of it was kind of like fighting techniques, really. Like that was the whole premise of it. How that translates to being an offensive line coach, where a lot of your job is implementing scheme and getting the entire unit to be cohesive and working together. He only has 1 year of experience in that job title with New England last year, and it was a terrible offensive line because it was terrible personnel-wise. And a lot of people think that despite all their talent and inadequacies, they almost overachieved to an extent, despite being so terrible around the league compared to like league average. So there's hope that this guy is still relatively young in terms of assistant coaches, and only has like a handful of years of being an assistant under Bill Callahan, who's one of the best offensive line coaches in the game. But yeah, they are making huge bets on both him and Al Golden as defensive coordinator, because again, the personnel has not changed really for both units, and it's just a matter of can he maximize a lot of the guys that were on this roster previously that previous coaches couldn't do. But that can only work to an extent, right? At a certain point, players are who they are, and you can't really coach them when the ball is snapped and they're out there just relying on the things that they know and the players who they are. So they still have to make additions there. They can't rely entirely on coaches just completely elevating those units.
John, is Trent Brown still on the team?
He's with the Texans now.
Okay.
Wow.
I knew that too.
Had no clue.
Had no clue.
I actually wasn't sure, but I hadn't seen
We talked to him a couple weeks ago. He's back in Texas. He has a ranch there. That's where he's from. He's a lot closer to home now.
So
if I was as big as Trent Brown, I would have a ranch. Because he probably eats a cow a day. Go ahead, Bridget, please.
Who's the starting five? Karras, Orlando.
They got Orlando Brown, Marius Mims.
Volson.
I don't really know who the starting guards are at this point, because Cody Ford's probably starting over Cordell Volson because Volson was benched twice for Ford last year. They signed Lucas Patrick, who I think was probably, you can pencil him in as the other starting guard, and then Volson might be the first off the bench. It's just a lot of nothing at the moment. They're going to draft a guard there, and I don't know if it's going to be enough.
John, can I ask you something? Is there any rule that the tackle can't hike the ball? Because if Joe goes all the way to the left, okay, and then maybe put Amarius right next to Orlando Brown, okay, then he has a little bit of blocking there.
Wait, is Amarius on the left of Orlando Brown or the right? So is Amarius the guard?
Right. So he's the right tackle, but there's no guards or centers in between. They be on the other side. They can be on the right side.
So there could just be a defensive lineman to the left of Orlando Brown, and then that lineman's going to sack him immediately because there's no one blocking him.
Yeah.
Right. I was hoping Orlando would. So, but this is the kind of stuff that we need Scott Peters to really think about and figure out, because he doesn't know a scheme like we do.
No.
So,
and we got a new defensive coach. Nobody knows his name.
Coach. Nobody knows. No, it's Golden. Al Golden.
Is he good?
He was our linebacker coach before he was sent down to the Little Leagues.
Oh.
Everything that I've heard about that, though, like when he was on staff in 2020 and 2021, players loved him. They adored him, specifically the younger players. And when he left, there wasn't really that coach under Lou that a lot of younger players connected to and related to outside of Charles Burke, who's the cornerbacks coach, and that's why he stuck around. So there was a lot of hidden, I don't want to say tension, but like Lou couldn't necessarily connect with a lot of the players that needed to play, and a lot of them who were young, like Logan Wilson, for example, he was obviously a rookie when Golden was hired in 2020. He loved Al Golden, and obviously they've been apart for 3 years now. So the hope is that Golden, being the guy who was coaching for college or for over a dozen years now at several different programs, that is his forte. He can connect with younger players, and he knows how to get them into the system immediately, implement them, develop them, relate to them more than a guy like Lou Anarumo could. And
I think, John, a lot of people think that, and he's going to tighten, he's going to run a tight ship, as they call it. And they call that the Golden Crisp. When you put together a nice, clean roster, defensive. Thank you, Tippity Top. I think that comment was before. It was probably for John, but I'll take it. All right. So, Bridget, I know you're thinking, hey, I was on the show for so long. What did I miss? Well, we actually got a new sponsorship, Bridget. And the thing is, a lot of people are like, hey, the Bengals have spent all this money. I feel guilty because I want to show them that I, too, will spend money. So you can go to greengridiron.com. Bridget is looking at this seriously. Bridget, you could be our first customer. These are only, that's $35.
Dadio, I think with Bridget, you can go up to the higher tiers.
Bridget.
I'm just worried you're the guy who robbed Joe Burrow's house. I'm looking at these like, where did you get these?
Oh, he has definitely been a suspect and he's been questioned, but nothing's been proven. Now, Bridget, do you have a nephew? Because if you do,
yes, I do.
Yeah, if you read these comments,
I had to think about it for a minute.
The nephews love that helmet there, and they have great reviews. And you know what, Bridget? Green Gridiron actually makes the official bumper stickers for the helmets. They make the official warning labels
and you
for
can
the helmets.
Just buy
it's
the
not
warning
even
label.
$1.50. You can just buy the warning label, and you can put it around work. So let people know that I have a sensitive head and I don't have my helmet with me. So
Now,
that is,
and I bet,
yeah.
Bridget, you were wondering something. I bet you were thinking, how much of a discount does that get me? The Bengals
exactly
one
what I was
code.
wondering.
Yeah.
And we are wondering too.
We are wondering. We don't
So
know.
if you go and you
We
check
don't know.
out after it's processed, you can go and you'll see what you saved.
And tell us. Because we don't know.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, John, do we have anything else going on in the Bengals world?
Oh, Katie Blackburn's threatening to move the team if the county doesn't play ball with the stadium lease negotiations. So there's that.
I see.
And where
see.
to? Does she mentioned some locations.
She's bluffing. She's negotiating. This is what they do.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would be curious where would be the next best place for the Cincinnati Bengals.
I really don't know because I don't think they would want to move the Bengals west, even though I
Yeah.
think that's where the markets would be for a new team.
Yeah.
I don't think London's in play. Very rarely do teams move nowadays. You're not going to see Mike Brown pack up a truck at midnight like the Baltimore Colts did 38 years ago or whatever
Yeah.
it is. It's just hardball. They're just
It's a long drive on a golf
another
cart.
bad
I
deal.
was gonna say, did they make a U-Haul for the golf cart little
I
trailer?
don't think so.
And put his
I-
khakis and that trench coat and that one little cap.
I
I
just
bet that's
don't
all he
think-
packs.
Yeah. I don't know.
Cincinnati without the Bengals would not be Cincinnati.
It would
really
probably,
would
yeah. It would. We could probably focus on like building infrastructure and repairing the city because we would stop being so depressed.
What would we do on Sundays?
Why
then?
would you do it? What would be the goal? We build the infrastructures to get us to Bengals games.
That's true. Wow. Well said.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if Bridget knows, but we also have a Patreon.
That's
Bridget.
right.
And you can go to our Patreon. And by the way, Patreon, we paused the payments for all of our patrons, but we're going to unpause it today. That's a special offer so that this new song that you heard is going to be up there. So anybody who wants, when you are unpaused, your money is going to come on our bank account. And anybody else who wants, they can also join and be
That's right.
unpaused.
That's right.
And,
the
download
people
all
who-
of our
yeah.
songs for free.
Free.
Complimentary when you become a
Complimentary.
paid subscriber.
All you have to do is pay and then it's free.
Right after you pay. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you waiting for them to pay now?
You were going no, well, that'd be great. You were saying something, Hodgie.
Oh, I was. Oh, yeah. I do, like, subscribe,
Yes.
write comments. What should they
Right.
make a comment about in the YouTube comment?
I think they
You know,
should
I
make-
think
yeah.
everybody should welcome back Bridget, who
Yes.
is essential to the integrity of this show.
Yes. Yes. Leave a
In the
comment if
YouTube
you want
comments.
Bridget to be back every week. Just
Well,
leave
no-
a comment.
Yeah, do that.
Because that's
There's gonna be 0 comments, or
No,
just like a
guys.
Our fans
resounding
comment.
no.
leave the comment if you want Bridget back every week. If we have one comment, she has to come back for that one person. That's the
Every week.
By the way, we also have a iTunes, and we don't have a lot of reviews. Please, if you leave a good review on iTunes, we will post it on the show. Promise. Okay.
What do we do
That
with the
is-
bad reviews?
Bad reviews. Oh, those go on the show probably multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, John, anything else that you have for us?
Well, I like to put the bad reviews on my mirror every day. I wake up and look at them, and I just try to be a better person, or I just
Yeah.
plan revenge
John is
of whoever.
always
He's a
looking
rage
to-
machine.
Can we talk about John's YouTube channel for a second? So, John, okay, we had this little downtime. John was like, guys, at first he was like, okay, leave me alone, guys. I can't keep, carrying the show. We said, fine. So then what happened was John, after a while, was like, what am I going to do with all this time? And so he started the YouTube channel. And he has what, John? How many? Like 10,000 subscribers already in like a couple of months.
Divide
and-
that by 1,000.
A lot of people, he has 10 subscribers. A lot of people love it. Love it. And he's making money, which we are not doing. So go to John's A to Z Sports Cincinnati, subscribe, like, but also come here because we need you. Okay.
It makes sense though. Like you start as an intern here, and then you go on and graduate and be an actual professional somewhere else. But it doesn't hurt to stop by, the old stomping grounds, see how everything's going.
Well, I
dust
started
up the
as an intern. I
cobwebs.
still am an intern, John.
Well,
Well, Bridget, make glasses look good. Dadio looks
Not so
good.
much.
Dadio.
He's gonna
I couldn't-
print
I
that
couldn't-
out and put it on
way
his
too
mirror.
fast. It went way too fast. All right. Yeah. Thank you so much we'll see you next time. So long.
Bye.
Bye.